On today's show, Google's tracking you, no shocker there. But with Google's recent acquisition of Fitbit, I'll tell you why you need to be concerned about the data the tech giant is now collecting about your health and your workouts. Trust me, it goes well beyond just counting steps. Plus, robocalls are the worst. They're relentless, they're annoying, and very difficult to stop. The FTC and phone companies are working to fight robocallers, but so far, it's not good enough. Lucky for you, this week's Komando DIY video will show you how to block those calls and the new telltale signs to look for the next time your phone rings. And do you have trouble getting a good night's rest? A company from Ireland has developed a high-tech headset that zaps your head with jolts of electricity to help you fall asleep faster. But the price might be what keeps you up at night. And finally, cyber criminals continue to step up their game as they target you and your money. In my DIY security, I have 5 steps the pros take to protect a phone from hackers. All this and more digital know-how here on Komando. Just when you think Google couldn't collect any more of your data than they already have, it's time to wake up. Google has secretly partnered with Ascension. Who? Ascension is one of the nation's largest health systems. And for what? Well, data, of course. Names, birth dates, addresses, what you're allergic to, immunizations that you've had, your medications, your medical conditions, hospitalization, and other records. Nice. Some 50 million people or so, along with the doctors, didn't even know the data sharing was happening. Google was quick to respond to the Wall Street Journal's report, saying this is similar to what it's doing already with dozens of other healthcare providers. I guess that makes it okay. And Google said the partnership doesn't violate HIPAA guidelines. What a relief. They also said Ascension's data can't be used or combined with any other data Google has on you. Yeah, because how great would it be to get targeted ads based on your medical conditions? Google already has plenty of your data from your online habits, but that shouldn't carry over to the next time you have to cough. Big Brother has many siblings. And speaking of health data, Google is spending some $2.1 billion to acquire Fitbit, the company that makes popular fitness trackers and smartwatches. Think about the tech built into wearables that tracks all kinds of metrics, from the number of steps you take to your heart rate. And there are countless health apps that require your information to work. Well, these health apps aren't bound by HIPAA, and they're all usually have these privacy policies that seemingly go on forever. So you need to ask yourself, when was the last time you even read one of those apps' policies? It's not just about data being used for drug research, in home care, or targeted ads, but what if your health data went beyond just advertisers? Let's say you have a heart condition, and that information is logged in one of these apps. Now let's say that info is made available to your health insurance provider. What's going to stop them from raising your rates? You might not remember how many steps you took a week ago Thursday, but there's a good chance plenty of companies out there do. They'll even be able to tell you if you were having an off day compared to Wednesday. All right, how do you spell scandal? Once again, it's FACEBOOK. And here's what's happening. While using the latest version of the Facebook app and scrolling through photos or videos on an iPhone, the phone's camera suddenly turns on and stays on without your permission. This bug, or whatever it is being noted all over Twitter. You can learn more about it at komando.com, along with the steps to take to revoke Facebook's access to your iPhone's camera. As far as where the video goes when the camera turns on and who's watching it, it's unknown. Guy Rosen is Facebook's VP of Integrity. I kid you not, that's the guy's title. Tweeted that it's a bug, it's fixed, and there's nothing to see here. Right. And speaking of cameras, invasions of privacy aren't always the result of a bug. Get this, a California woman went to an Apple store to get her screen replaced. An upstanding Apple employee decided to take a look through her photo gallery, and somewhere in the more than 5,000 photos, he found a racy picture she took for her boyfriend, and he decided to text it to his own phone. But this Apple genius didn't do much to cover his tracks, and she noticed the message to an unknown number as soon as she got her phone back. He admitted that it was his number, but said he didn't know how that picture got sent. Well, this Apple employee tried to leave the store after he got caught, but he couldn't. There were no windows. All right, just 4 years ago, Apple CEO Tim Cook said the future of TV, it's apps. And as it turned out, he was only partly right, but right enough to begin a massive change in the way that we all consume video. The Disney Plus streaming service launched with a staggering 20 million customers in a single week. and millions more will sign up by the time you hear about it. Verizon is giving Disney Plus free for the first year, and we're not sure how many people that accounts for. But by comparison, Netflix has 60 million U.S. subscribers and 150 million globally. Now, Disney, Netflix, Hulu, Apple Plus, Amazon Prime, YouTube, and all the others are, of course, streaming services. But back to Tim Cook for a sec. On a television, those services are launched with an app that's already installed in your smart TV. Or if not, you can easily download it. The numbers buying Disney, watching Netflix, Amazon, and all the others puts the handwriting on the wall for cable and satellite. They are simply no longer necessary. The best research seems to indicate 21% of America will become Disney streaming customers. One thing's for sure, you don't fool with the mouse to infinity and beyond. And finally, Manhattan, always busy with traffic jams and the constant sounds of horns honking. You've also got a lot of pedestrians, from people who work in the area to tourists, causing a whole other kind of traffic jam. So to find a faster way through all the chaos, one man created what he thinks is the next great tech hit, the pedestrian horn. That's right, Joseph Lerner posted a video showing off his invention by asking the question, what if people were cars? So he took a steering wheel, attached a seatbelt strap to it, and hung it around his neck before taking a stroll through Manhattan. And as the video shows, the crazy horn-equipped steering wheel apparently works, both to get selfie-taking tourists to move out of the middle of the sidewalk to get the attention of drivers in crosswalks. So how much is a pedestrian horn? $700. Crazy. And if it can make it there, it can make it anywhere. All right, this could only end two ways. I'd lose everything I owned or make a fortune. What was it? My next guest will tell you what he's referring to, and it's only on Komando. Robocalls are the worst. They're relentless, annoying, and so difficult to stop. The FTC and phone companies are working to fight robocallers, but so far, it's not enough. And in this week's Komando DIY video, we'll give you the steps you need to take to fight back.
What's the difference between a mosquito and a robocall? One's a bloodthirsty nuisance that won't leave you alone no matter how hard you try, and the other's an annoying insect. Oh, and did I mention you can't swat a robocaller? Even though the FTC and phone carriers are working on solutions, these robocallers still get through. Here are some reasons why. 1. Answering a robocall leads to even more robocalls. That's because they know the number works and that someone will respond. 2. Robocallers use modern tech to adapt. They can also spoof phone numbers to trick your caller ID, and even collect voice recordings to imitate a familiar friend or family member. 3. Then there's the legality. A lot of telemarketers have avoided serious penalties for decades because all they're doing is making a phone call. And 4. Because a lot of robocalls originate overseas, they're hard to track and even harder to stop.
Oh no, what do we do with these robocallers?
Hey now, don't you worry, we got some simple steps. Well, for one, don't answer calls from random area codes or numbers that look nearly the same as yours. Also ignore unknown or unlisted numbers. You can join the National Do Not Call Registry, which should reduce the number of robocalls you receive, at least by a little. There are also services your carrier provides or apps like Nomo Robo, but keep in mind, they usually cost a little extra. Or you can always simply block the number. Most smartphones make the process to block repeat robocalls from the same number pretty easy. Unfortunately, there's nothing that will put an absolute end to the robocall epidemic, but at least you can put a big dent in the number you receive. For more tips, tricks, and other digital know-hows, visit Komando.com.
Do you remember when the cryptocurrency craze started a few years back? Everyone from gamers to grandparents were rushing to invest in the crypto boom. Recently, Facebook has been making plans to jump on the blockchain bandwagon too, but the problem with investing in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other types of cryptocurrency is that it's not regulated like a bank. So could you imagine taking your entire life savings and investing it in digital dough? It sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, my next guest did just that. He poured every last penny that his family had into Ethereum, and he lived to tell about it. And I'd like to extend a big Kim Komando Show welcome to Dan Conway. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us. And now I have to start by asking, what did your wife say?
Well, that is, I wrote a book about all this that goes into more detail, Confessions of a Crypto Millionaire. And in one of the scenes of the book describes how after hundreds of hours of research, I became convinced that Ethereum was going to go up. Rightly or wrongly, that's where my brain was. And I walked down to my bank, Wells Fargo at the time. I walked in and I started the machines up, wiring the $100,000, and I felt my phone buzz. And I looked down, and it was a note from my wife that said, "WTF is this?" So that was not a fun day or evening, and I kind of document how we talked about it. And we ultimately made a deal that allowed me to put the money in. She's never been particularly interested in money. She sort of thinks it's unholy. She has a fairly healthy perspective on money, and we made a deal that I document that allowed me eventually to put it in there. She kind of compartmentalized the whole thing after that.
You didn't discuss this with her first?
No, I did not, and that I do not recommend that for folks who are in a marriage. That is not a good idea. I convinced myself, since she doesn't really like to talk about money and I was in charge of our investments. We have, a 401k as well that's separate from this, not massive, but so I convinced myself, but I tried not to think too much about it, frankly, that, she wouldn't care about this. But yes, she did.
So how did you become an Ethereum expert?
Basically, my career up to that point was involved working in corporations and centralized corporations, and I was like a lot of people, it made me miserable. So when I came across Bitcoin, I was interested in the investment angle of it, and folks saying Bitcoins are going to be worth 50,000. I was fairly desperate at that point, so I had the incentive to learn about it. But when I learned about Ethereum, which focuses more on this concept of decentralization in relation to organizations, I began to read the Reddits, YouTube videos, go to meetups, Twitter. I mean, I literally, when I want to go deep, I can go really deep. And I became convinced that maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but in the years and decades ahead, Ethereum not only would rise in value, but would sort of challenge this idea that a centralized corporation is the only way to add to and manage economic activity. I believed and still believe that that will happen to some degree in the years to come.
Okay, so you had the $100,000, and what did it turn into, and how long did it take to turn that into a sizable amount?
Well, it was first. It was a fairly, in one sense, a fairly miserable experience because, like I said, I made the big investment in May, and on my birthday on June 18th, one of the most high-profile Ethereum projects was hacked. It was called the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, the DAO. Ethereum crashed. All of crypto crashed. It was, my Twitter blew up right as I was walking into the restaurant to have dinner with my wife and 3 kids, and we lost 40%, like almost immediately. But the thing is, Kim, is that, I mean, I can't underestimate how into it I was. I had done so much research, and I had myself 100% convinced that while it was sad that it went down, it was more a buying opportunity.
Okay, is that when you took a home equity loan out?
Yes. Yes, that is when I truly jumped the shark. I took a home equity out, and it wouldn't necessarily have led to 100% economic collapse of my family, but that was definitely a possibility.
Okay, so you're 300 grand in the hole. And your wife, who's not into money, I'm sure at this point is saying kind of what's going on and what happens.
She didn't want to know anything about it after the initial investment. Like she said, she never thought we were going to get rich. But if I had told her like a month later, like, hey, you know what, that thing turned out to be like the World Wrestling Foundation, she said she wouldn't have been the least bit surprised.
I couldn't imagine that happening in my relationship with my husband. It'd be like, what did you just do? Are you crazy? Okay, but now you're the golden boy because in what, 4 months, this turns into how much?
We were up 2 million. And again, I didn't sort of figure out what the impact would be on Eileen. I said, I quit Bitco. We're up 2 million. We're fine. And she was really ticked off, to put it lightly. That's when I decided about halfway through, we needed to sell some to get our initial investment out.
Where did you store it so it was protected from hackers?
Everyone said, hold your own keys. And that involves holding your, like it's 26 or 27 digits on a device that you own or written down somewhere. And if you hold those, like say I'm a refugee, I can memorize that code. I can put it somewhere only I can get it, only know about it. And wherever I'm at, I can get onto a computer and get my crypto, right? But that scared the heck out of me. I knew that I was going to mistype a code and lose all the money, and then what would I do? So I always left mine on an exchange called Gemini, which is one of the big ones, and their whole focus is on security. They're run by the Winklevoss twins. I'm sure you're familiar with them, and so I feel comfortable holding it there.
And so, how much did you build it up to before you cashed it all out?
We ended up cashing out $13 million. About 4 or 5 days before it started to go down. And since then, it's been in this bear market. I believe it will boom again, but we've been in a bear market for 2 years now.
Well, you know what, Dan, thank you so much for sharing your story. And if you're thinking about investing in cryptocurrencies, you know what? Make sure you do your research, because for every story like Dan's, there are hundreds, maybe not thousands of others about people who just lost everything. And if you want to read more about Dan's story, Confessions of a Crypto Millionaire, you can find a link to it posted over at my website, and that's komando.com. And now it's time for your weekly tech trivia question. Every week, I test your knowledge to see how much you really know about the history of tech. But you always have to promise me not to use any of your smart devices for help. Okay, are you ready for this week's? Here we go. You might have heard that the U.S. Department of Defense finally upgraded the 70s-era nuclear missile command system that, up until now, had still used computers running 8-inch floppy disks. Pretty primitive tech, but it wasn't the only outdated piece of the puzzle. Back in the early 60s, President Kennedy felt that military commanders had too much authority to launch a nuclear attack on their own. So he came up with a plan to require an 8-digit password to authorize a launch. So what was that password? Was it A, 123-45678, or B, Kennedy 1, C, 8 zeros, or D, the word password? Stick around, I'll have the answer at the end of the hour. That's right, it's time now for Brand New or Not True. And if you're new to the program, Brand New or Not True is truly America's favorite radio game show sensation. And joining us once again for another round of Brand New or Not True, and he's feeling the wind today, it's the chairman of the board, Barry Young. You're looking pretty dapper.
Another losing Friday.
So are you ready to play? Now remember,
I'm ready.
So 2 products are fake?
Yes, I wrote these products this week, and I know 2 are fake, and 1 is real, and your job is to guess the real one.
Are we doing a bet?
I don't want to do a bet. I keep losing, and I walk into the building today, and everybody says it so respectfully, but they say, "What's up, loser?" So, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Item number 1 on our Brand New or Not True.
Real.
It's...
Kidding. Go ahead.
Item number 1 is a new generation of cast iron skillet. Now, here's the problem with cast iron skillets, though.
Yes.
They go back to 1707.
They're heavy.
And they're heavy. You don't want to take them on a camping trip with you. An Englishman named Abraham Darby patented a method for making relatively thin pots and pans out of cast iron. That was a big, big deal. Hadn't been done before. You with a cast iron skillet, every kitchen needs it because you can bake, you can fry, you can make cornbread, anything you want to make in a pancakes, you can make it, as long as one thing, you have to season the skillet. If you just take a brand new cast iron skillet and put something in it and cook it, it will stick to the iron. You'll never get it off. So everybody wants it, but you've got a new generation of millennials who don't know how to season the skillet. So because of that, we now have a prepped skillet. In fact, you can get 2, a 10-inch one and a 12-inch one. And this is for millennials who don't know anything about seasoning the skillet, but they want to cook with the skillet and cook all kinds of great things.
You know what? If you just said to a millennial, hey, let's season the skillet.
Well, that would be a code word for something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you do want to do that. You get a 10-inch and 12-inch. It's called the prepped skillet. The thing is, listen to this. It's one piece. It will last forever. And this is the prepped cast iron skillet.
And you know what? If you're a millennial and you're living in a tiny house, Or, you mean, this is be like the one thing that you would do?
One thing. This is the one thing. You cook everything in it, and it's just the best thing in the world.
Like an Instant Pot.
It really is. It's the 1700s version of the Instant Pot.
Okay, number
all right,
one.
Number two. That's number two. Okay. Number two is Dog Easy. This is the internet chat service for dogs, which is, now you see, you're laughing. The internet service for dogs. The first question is, how is it possible for your dog to use the internet? And the answer is, it's not possible. The dog can't use the internet. It has to be one-way conversation only. So you just put it on the computer, and a few times a day, a dedicated Dog Easy chat person talks to your dog by name, gets their attention, makes suggestions that you have told them to make.
Like, like go get the ball.
Go, yeah, where's your ball? Are you happy?
Okay, how about me? At least 5 times last night, what did I say? Abby, stop. Okay, could I have it do that?
Yeah, probably.
That would be nice.
She thinks that's her name, however. Abby, stop.
Okay.
All right. Number three. We are finally moving into the 21st century. You say goodbye to the old-fashioned safety razor. They haven't really changed over the years. But now you can say goodbye to 19th century technology and hello to the new Scarp Laser Razor. The Scarp Laser Razor can revolutionize shaving because it uses a laser to remove unwanted hair. They found out that the human hair contains a chromophore, which is a little particle of color. It absorbs certain specific colors of laser light, and that laser light hits it and just kind of melts it away. And all you need to do is just rinse it off with water when you get done. You never have to replace the laser thing. It's powered by one of the new generations of completely safe lithium-ion batteries. And you know how safe they are for people watching on our video. You can get
Very
an
safe.
idea, right?
Is that a house on fire?
I think it's the factory that caught on fire. It's called the SKL 335. They've had a few mishaps in bringing it to market. It's been coming to market for 10 years. They had some skin burns and some hair catching on fire, but now that's in the past, and this is here, and it's all been tested, and it's ready to go. Nothing needs replacing. The battery just recharges between shaves, and you get a scarp, clean shave.
That was
so
good.
There they are.
You know what? I know it's not a tech product, but I'm going to go with the skillet. I'm going to go with number one. I'm
going with it.
Kim is absolutely correct.
Absolutely
Good job,
incredible.
Kim.
Absolutely incredible. I cannot believe this. I mean, this is just heartbreaking for me. Have to come in week after week with the same thing. And then I got to go out through the lobby, and they're not going to say anything. They're just going to, as I walk by, the whole staff will just do this.
All right, I'll let you win next week. My mother always said, let the boys win every once in a while, or else they won't want to play with you anymore. It can reach speeds up to 124 miles per hour and carry your suitcases by drone. But what really makes the Lexus LF special? Well, let's just say it's electrifying. And it's next in your Tomorrow's Tech Today. You know, just about every concept car these days tends to come with an accompanying video depicting life in the future straight out of a sci-fi movie. Take the new future concept car from Lexus, the LF30 Electrified, that was recently unveiled at an auto show in Tokyo. A couple wakes up, and apparently so does their car. Make a motion like you're drawing an L towards the bathroom mirror, and that brings the rest of the car online and tells it to drive the long way from the garage to pick you up at your front door. Oh, and it comes with a drone of sorts that flies your bags to the trunk. Okay, that aside, the LF30 is pretty slick, from the exterior and its lighting to the driver's seat and the AR overlay windshield. Even the glass roof has AR-based controls. Swipe at one of the consoles to turn autonomous driving mode on or off. Then, when you get to your destination, just let it park itself. And did I mention the 536 horsepower electric drivetrain? That'll go from 0 to 60 in just under 4 seconds. And is supposed to get 310 miles on one charge. Lexus says they envision a car like this to be available around the year 2030. You know, every car maker is also working on flying cars, and they're doing it tirelessly. Okay, when we talk about future tech screens, the Looking Glass 8K immersive display is it. This 32-inch screen can create 3D screens that look as real as if you were looking through a window, with no headsets or other gear required. The company says it's mainly geared for use in certain fields like mapping, medical imaging for x-rays, and ultrasounds, and retail for virtual shopping. Pretty impressive specs, too, with a screen that's capable of delivering more than 33 million pixels. Okay, your typical 4K TV has about 8 million pixels. The Looking Glass factory is taking pre-orders for the 8K holographic display, with an estimated shipping sometime in the spring. As far as cost, you have to contact the company directly for that. Now, considering some of their lower-end displays cost up to $6,000, expect the price tag to go well beyond that. The first 4K TV available in the U.S. was back in 2012, and it cost $20,000. Now you can get budget models under a couple of $100s. The point is, never buy the first version. Okay, much more common right now are VR and AR headsets you can get through various companies. One of those is the Magic Leap 1, which is a headset and a computer that can superimpose 3D images over real-world objects. Lots of applications for professional use in fields like architecture, manufacturing, medical, and of course, education. You can also use it for fun like augmented reality gaming. And now, immersing yourself in music with Spotify. Here's how it works. If you have a Magic Leap 1 and a Spotify premium account, you can pin your favorite artists, albums, or songs throughout your house. You can virtually place music wherever you want, on walls, tables, and control it with the Magic Leap 1 or another device, say your phone. And let's say that jazz is for the kitchen. That's where your music is pinned. Then you can place other playlists on your living room wall with album art or other images that you choose. It's a neat party trick, but you should know the Magic Leap 1 bundles start at about $2,300. It's a lot cheaper just to print those playlists and then hang them on the walls. All right, and speaking of headsets, one company thinks its future tech will help people with insomnia get a better night's sleep, but not in a way that you might expect. It's called the Modius Sleep, and you wear it over the top of your head like headphones, but this one doesn't touch your ears. Instead, it gives your brain some small electric shocks to help you sleep better. Yes, you heard that correctly. The headset sends electrical pulses into the hypothalamus, which is a small part of the brain that's responsible for sleep. The jolts are supposed to help shut down the brain and therefore trigger the transition into sleep. And so far, tests have seen positive results. But you can't get one just yet. The Modius Sleep is currently an Indiegogo campaign. While no crowd-funded project is ever guaranteed, the same company successfully funded a different product a couple of years ago called the Modius Slim that was supposed to suppress appetites and help with weight loss. They raised over $2 million in that campaign, and they said since then they've delivered about 10,000 of those headsets. The Modius Sleep is supposed to be out in the spring. I mean, sleeping for me, though, is so easy, I can do it with my eyes closed. All right, next, video games that are being used for military recruiting. And in your digital life hack, we'll show you ways to dig up dirt on someone. Plus, I'll reveal the answer to your tech trivia question, and it's only here on Komando. When video games first made their way into arcades, who would have guessed that the future of gaming would be people making millions of dollars a year playing those games? It's called esports. The Fortnite World Cup recently awarded, get this, over $30 million in prize money. And the top player walked away with a cool $3 million for first place. Games today are immersive 3D experiences, and they're being used for everything from training military personnel to treating mental illness. And this is such an honor. My next guest is joining me to talk more about the future of gaming. And if you like video games, then chances are you've probably played one created by him or maybe one of his students. He's the founding director of USC's Computer Science Games program, and he's joining me today here on the Kim Komando Show. And I'd like to welcome Michael Zaida. And thank you so much for joining us, Michael. Let's start by you telling me a little bit about yourself. I read that you hold a whole slew of patents on technology and the Nintendo Wii.
I have 2 patents that are used for the 9-axis sensor inside of the Nintendo Wii U.
How did you get into video gaming in the first place?
Oh, well, I started in computer graphics in 1973 and started making real-time interactive computer graphics systems and virtual reality environments in 1975. And I was also a professor at a school in Monterey, California.
You know, and it's so interesting because the processors that we were using in the 70s is just, I mean, minuscule to what we're using today, correct?
Yeah, your iPhone is a whole lot faster.
How many times faster is the processor in your iPhone to say what we were using a couple of decades ago?
Oh, wow. It's probably probably about 10,000 times faster.
How long does it take for a video game to be developed nowadays?
Yeah, you look at games like Call of Duty, I believe each of those versions that comes out of one of three studios at Activision. And the studio makes a version of Call of Duty in about 2.5 years. And when they ship it and it goes online, that team takes about 6 months off.
Wow.
And then they come back at the end of those 6 months and start on the next version, which is going to take another 2.5 years to come out. It's very expensive.
That's where I was just going to ask you, how much does a game like Call of Duty, how much does it cost to develop something like that?
Well, we'll make a guess. It's got to be on the order of 150 million to 200 million to build each version. And then they're going to spend about that same amount of money in marketing. And when they spend that much on marketing, they hope to make, $1.5 billion to $2.5 billion in revenue.
Boy, that's amazing to me. I mean, it's more than a Hollywood motion picture.
Well, the game industry in 2005, when I started at USC, was the same size in terms of revenue as the film industry. And game industry is now about 4 times the size of the film industry in terms of revenue.
Which is interesting to me because I watched a video not too long ago about how in Hollywood Hills you have these $15 million mansions. And they load these mansions up with basically teenagers, maybe 18, 19, maybe in their early 20s. And it's where they live, they eat, they work out, and they are e-sport champions playing like 6 to 9 hours a day.
Well, the esports thing I think is amazing. It's an extension of the brand of a game. When people go and say we're going to have esports for League of Legends, they're going to have it in big venues, they're going to stream it on Twitch TV. It's another way, it's another avenue of revenue for the game companies, and it's done amazingly well. I mean, even universities now are, putting together esports leagues that play against each other, and people make a good sum of money being top stars in games.
What game do you guys play during these competitions?
Oh, there's all kinds of games, and it's basically the online games where there's a team that plays against another team. It depends on what is the latest hot game that the marketing people at each of the big game companies want to put forward as an esports venue.
Now, what do you think about AR and VR being used in future games?
The main thing is there's just not enough deployed headsets. If you went to a company like Activision, looked at Call of Duty, they expect to have 30 million new players playing the latest version of Call of Duty in the first 2 weeks of that game's launch.
Oh my gosh, that's just crazy.
And the real question is are there 30 million VR headsets out there? Games will push in the AR and VR spaces.
So what are some games that you guys have developed over the last couple of years?
We've had a couple games that have achieved what I call escape velocity. In the very early years of the program, we had a wonderful woman, Jenna Seiden, who was a games agent for a creative artists agency. And I think the very first game she got a deal for was called The Misadventures of P.B. Winterbottom, which went out and became published by 2K Games. It turned into a company called The Odd Gentleman. And that is really pretty much the very first game that came out and did spectacularly well.
What are you working on this year?
I'm teaching a brand new class this year, and it's called Applied Machine Learning for Games. And we started this to try and say, is there a way that we can take Twitch videos, YouTube videos of master game players playing League of Legends and put them into a neural network, machine learning system that can understand how that master player is playing League of Legends, such that we can then take that neural network and use it as the core to build a bot that can then play League of Legends at master game player level.
Wow. So, Michael, tell me about the game that you created for the Army as a recruitment tool.
Oh, yeah, this is a long time ago. I got to direct the development of the America's Army game, and the game was built in support of recruiting. It was a first-person mission experience that allowed you to explore training in game form. And once you passed the training in game form, you could go off and play networked missions with other players inside of the game. It is the most successful recruiting tool ever built by the U.S. Army. And we also got this very nice note from Donald Rumsfeld. He said it was the only piece of software ever built by the Department of Defense that was on time and under budget.
You know, it's all really, really fascinating. Michael, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us about the future business of gaming. I mean, they've certainly come a long way from the days that, well, a long, long time ago when my mother was working for Bell Labs, we used to play something called Hunt the Wumpus back in New Jersey. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Now, back to the trivia question I asked earlier, which was, what was the original 8-digit password put in place by the Air Force to launch nuclear weapons in the 1960s? Was it A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, B, the word Kennedy and then the number 1, C, 8 zeros, or D, the word password? And the answer is C. That's right, 00000000. Okay, apparently Air Force officers weren't too keen on adding an extra step to do something pretty basic like, launching a nuclear missile. So they came up with a password you didn't really have to think about. Now, of course, to this day, the Air Force says they never used such a simple password. But a former Air Force nuclear launch officer named Bruce Blair, who worked in a control center in the 1970s, says they most certainly did use 8 zeros as the password a long time ago. All right, in our digital life hack tip this week, it's all about digging dirt up on someone. And we've all done this at some point. You meet someone in person or online, and you're compelled to do a little research to dig up potential dirt on them. Now, you can find out a lot about someone online, but there's only so much information that you can figure out if you're the person that's looking for, maybe they have locked down his or her social media profiles, or they've erased information collected on these shady online directories. Maybe they've just totally deleted themselves from the internet. And that's why you need to stick with sites that you can trust. I don't want you to get sucked in by those creepy people search sites. You know what I'm talking about. If they find you one thing and then they charge you for outdated or incorrect information. So here are 3 methods to find reliable information on just about anyone. And let's start at the top with free websites that have really valuable intel. I'm talking about free public information websites. The easiest way to find your county assessor's site is do a quick Google search. And that's what I'm talking about. Just type in the county you're looking for along with the word assessor. And once you get there, you can see where all your person of interest lives. You can get details on their home, the properties they own, and a whole bunch more. And then if you're feeling curious, you can also see how much somebody's paid for their house, their neighbors paid. But again, it's all public record. Now, if you're having trouble finding the assessor site in your area, I have a website. I don't want to give it to you out on the air because we have it on our website. But it's a directory that includes official state and county websites, so you can actually navigate to yours easily. You can also search by zip code to find the correct county. Number 2 on the list is you want to figure out, does the person have a criminal record? Super important. A simple search may get you there, or you can use the National Center for State Courts website, and this allows you to quickly access court records by state. Now, they're going to tell you everything a background check can, but it's pretty enlightening. And we're going to tell you exactly how you can get started and the steps that you need to do. Now, another way to get official docs, that's what we're looking for, official documents, is a website that I can give you out on the air because it's really easy. It's called vitalrec.com. And that's where you get birth certificates, death records, marriage licenses, divorce decrees, land records, a whole bunch more. And then, many of these documents have other information. It's like birth certificates show the parents' full names, the baby's name, the county, date of birth. So you can go ahead and be your own investigator. Now, there is a free 15-day trial, but then you're going to have to pay, which brings up another point. How do you get information about yourself out of these directories? Well, that's our bonus tip. We're going to tell you how you can opt out of sites like Classmates and iSearch and People Lookup and Public Records. You can opt out of My Life and People Finders and White Pages and the premium sites. That's right. It's time now for our DIY security tip of the week. And every week we put one of these together for you. And this week it's all about hackers and your phone, because cyber criminals continue to step up their game as they target you and your data. And some of them resort to these simple techniques like phishing to steal your credentials, while others take it a step further with gadgets like credit card skimmers or hacking devices. But recently, some hackers have taken identity theft really to a terrifying new level. I'm talking about leveraging information they've gained by social engineering. And these criminals trick or they bribe mobile carrier employees into switching their victim's phone number to a different SIM card. Now, identity theft isn't a game, and these cyber criminals aren't playing around. According to reports from the Wall Street Journal, victims have lost a collective $70 million here in the United States alone. And here's what you need to know about what's called SIM swapping. It's the latest security threat that's just sweeping the internet. To successfully SIM swap and hack a victim, they need to know who you are, and they need to know what your phone number is. And then they use fake IDs and they cherry pick public records. And the report revealed several attackers went as far as just bribing, say, AT&T and Verizon and retail employees to provide the information they need. Now, once the attacker has your phone number and this identifying information, they'll visit a different store and perform what's called a SIM swap. This means that your phone number is ported to a brand new SIM card to be used inside a different phone. This does a lot of frightening things. It actually prevents two-factor authentication from alerting you to an attack. It also disables your phone. And then they strike at your email account. And once they've gained access, there's no stopping them from resetting your other passwords, checking your inbox, just outright stealing money from you. Now, Michael Turpin was mentioned in the story, a high-profile cryptocurrency investor. Once his data was breached, listen to this, the hackers drained more than $20 million worth of cryptocurrency from his portfolio. So what can you do? A couple of things. Number one, add an extra layer of protection. You do want to set up two-factor authentication. You want to call your carrier and set up a special passcode or PIN number for your mobile account. And then you could take everything with you by using what's called a USB-powered device. You can also get a different code every single time you sign on to your account, and you don't want to keep things simple. We've got more information about this and the steps and the links that you need free for the taking over at komando.com. Head over to komando.com, and once you're there, hit that Show Picks of the Week button that's right on the homepage.
Stand by control room. Cue Kim.
So if you're job hunting, how important is your resume? It may not be as important as your employability score. I'll explain what that means next here on Komando. If you're job hunting, your resume may not be as important as something called your employability score. And if that sounds a little Orwellian to you, wait, there's more. You see, hundreds of big-name firms like Goldman Sachs, Hilton, IKEA, Delta Airlines, and others are making hiring decisions based on an artificial intelligence algorithm. Instead of a hiring manager, software decides if the applicant will be a good fit for the job in the company by ranking his or her facial movements, choice of words, posture, and speech. The AI places candidates into high, medium, and low tiers based on the likelihood of success. The company is called HireVue, and its AI-driven assessments have become so pervasive. In some industries, like hospitality and finance, major universities now train students on how to look and how to speak. In other words, how to game the AI system. So don't fret about your resume. It's a software algorithm that's becoming the gatekeeper to your next job. And keep your digital know-how going. Find your local radio station that broadcasts my show, along with more DIY how-tos and tips, videos. We have free news alerts delivered from me to your email address, along with the Komando community, where you can blog and ask your tech questions on our website. That's komando.com. And thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks for watching. Now, a few things. Don't forget to click the like button and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more digital know-how, check out all these other great links.